Hello and welcome, and this presentation is about the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. In this article I'm going to be covering the definition of entrepreneurship and also the definition of intrapreneurship before I go into what I've discovered as the top 7 differences between entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. I'm then going to finish off with some examples of successful entrepreneurship and some examples of successful intrapreneurship. So without further ado, let's have a look at the definition of entrepreneurs. Looking it up in the Oxford Dictionary, entrepreneurship is defined as the activity of setting up a business or businesses taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. Traditionally, entrepreneurship has been defined as the process of designing, launching and running a new business. An entrepreneur is a person who is typically more comfortable taking risk. However, depending on the individual will depend on the level of risk that they take on. An entrepreneur is the person who brings the product or service into reality. So let's look at intrapreneurs. Entrepreneurship. When I looked at the Oxford Dictionary for the definition of entrepreneurship, it wasn't there. So relying on Wikipedia, this is the definition according to them. Entrepreneurship is the act of behaving like an entrepreneur while working within a large organisation. Effectively, an entrepreneur is nothing but an entrepreneur within the boundaries of an organisation. Entrepreneurship is where an individual integrates risk-taking within his corporate management approach. Gifford Pinchot III, first book in 1985 was about entrepreneurship, and he called intrapreneuring why you don't have to leave a corporation to become an entrepreneur. The American Heritage Dictionary acknowledged the term to mean a person within a large corporation who takes direct responsibility for turning an idea into a profitable, finished product through assertive risk-taking and innovation. So what is the difference between entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship? So difference number 1 is ownership of a business. The most obvious difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur is ownership. An entrepreneur is an individual that starts up a business and is the owner, whereas an intrapreneur is an employee of the company and does not have any ownership. Although having said that, some intrapreneurs may have shares within a business. Ownership of a company gives the entrepreneur the ultimate control over what the business does. The intrapreneur may take risks within the corporation where he works though. However, the final risk comes down to the responsibility of the business owner and not the intrapreneur. Difference number 2 is around financial loss. The ultimate sacrifice made by an entrepreneur is one of potential financial loss. Many times the entrepreneur will use his own money for his startup business. An intrapreneur will not usually be in a position to raise funds for the organisation. And even where the funds are raised by a lender, the entrepreneur is the one that would have to put up security to secure such lending. Entrepreneurs have been known to lose everything, whereas if a company fails, the intrapreneur can just walk away, so bearing no risk at all. Secondly, where a company collapses and goes into liquidation, the entrepreneur could lose everything, and sometimes does. If the business makes a loss and runs out of cash, the entrepreneur is the one who has to make up the difference. But this is not the case for intrapreneurs. Difference number 3 is about financial gain. On the converse of financial loss, the entrepreneur is the one who will reap the rewards of success. This financial gain is twofold. Firstly, where the company makes a profit, the entrepreneur will be able to reward himself with profits by way of dividends. Secondly, the entrepreneur stands to gain the most on the sale of the business. It's possible that due to the nature of an intrapreneur, they may have arranged a profit share for themselves. Intrapreneurs will not usually gain from the sale of the business in the same way, except where they have an agreement in place with the business owner to take a share of the proceeds at the point of sale. Difference number 4 is around dependency. Intrapreneurs are dependent on entrepreneurs in the first place to start the business. So without entrepreneurs, there wouldn't be intrapreneurs to flourish in the first place. The original spark or original genius is provided by the entrepreneur, but good entrepreneur leadership will always lead to having intrapreneurs within their businesses. There is of course the risk of losing key employees who act as an intrapreneur, which would make it very difficult to replace that individual. However, it's an entrepreneur's duty to encourage intrapreneurship and to support and look after intrapreneurs within the business. Difference number 5 is about fundraising and capital. Effectively, the resources used by an entrepreneur are provided by him. Entrepreneurs have to be extremely resourceful. Whilst intrapreneurs are resourceful, they are not required to provide the resources needed by the company. Different companies and different business types require specific resources, but at no time is an intrapreneur expected to put their hands in their pocket for the business. Difference number 7 is about the ultimate say. The buck stops with the entrepreneur. An entrepreneur always also has the final say about what happens within a business. Although entrepreneurs have a high level of autonomy and creativity, they are under the ultimate control and guidance of the entrepreneur or business owner. Many entrepreneurs live and die by their sword, many of whom will put their last dime to keep a business afloat. There's no decision that an entrepreneur can't take within an organisation that requires approval, except in certain circumstances, for example, where they have high borrowings from a bank, whereas intrapreneurs are given certain boundaries to work within. Examples of successful entrepreneurship. Well, one of the top for me is Sir Richard Branson and the Virgin Group. Branson became an entrepreneur at an early age, and he started his first venture when he was still at college at just 16. He's gone on to make billions of pounds, and his net worth is in the billions through his various ventures under the Virgin brand and others too. Another example of an entrepreneur is Teish Lalvani, and he's the new addition to Dragon's Den alongside the likes of Tuka Suleiman and Peter Jones. He's a successful entrepreneur, and he is the CEO of the UK's largest, by sales, vitamin company, Vitabiotics. An interesting character, and one that I've written about on my business blog too. So examples of successful entrepreneurship. Well, top of the list actually is Google, a company which does encourage entrepreneurship, and Paul Buchheit, who created Gmail, is an example of an entrepreneur who was created within the Google conglomerate. Another example of successful entrepreneurship is a lady called Indra Nooyi. She's the CEO of PepsiCo, and a very interesting lady, and there's also a very interesting video on my business blog on the article about Indra. Very worthwhile reading and also listening to. Thank you very much for listening, and if you'd like to look at any of my other articles on my business blog, go to in-business.org.uk, and for example you can have a look at the Intrapreneurship Definition or advantages and disadvantages of offshoring, but also you can find out a bit more about myself, Russell Bowyer. Thank you very much, and bye for now.